Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on homeopathy with our beloved Dr. Pachegaonkar. We are continuing our series on the composition of the body, and today Dr. Pachegaonkar will tell us about the muscles.
Muscles are made up of connective tissue, and these muscle cells are typically designed for a human body. The muscle cells or muscle fibers, what we call, they are elongated but cylindrical cells, and they have a definite arrangement of the cell structure which is specific to muscle tissue. So each muscle cell has, again, typically the structure, as every cell has the cell membrane and cytoplasm. But the funniest part is some of the muscle cells are multinucleated. They have more nuclei than one, unlike other cells. And depending upon its function and location, the muscle cells have different structure. Like some of the muscles are striated, some of the muscles are non-striated. Because in our connective tissue, the musculoskeletal tissue, the skeletal muscles need a contractibility and extensibility extensively. And these muscles, they are the bundles of muscle sheaths. And these muscles, they form a tendon. They culminate into tendon getting inserted in the bone at two different places. So proximal insertion and distal insertion, we call it. If it is proximal, we call it origin, and the distal, we call it insertion. So these tendons again communicate the actions, contractions and relaxations. So these muscles are prone, or there is a possibility or potential of getting stimulated. So what we call excitability. Then the contraction, it is capable of contracting to facilitate the movement. Then it is capable of extending. And then it is capable of even elasticity. So the excitability is there, and therefore the human movement is definitely facilitated by these muscle actions. So when we move, it gives you movement as well as it gives you stability also. Because if movement is there, just to stop and give you stability, the muscles react. And it's such a wonderful design our human body has, so far as muscles are concerned. For example, we have this abduction movement where we are lifting some object and it is away from the body, the center support. Conventionally, the mechanical engineers really wonder for this apparatus, our human body, because if what work we are doing with our appendages, if that you calculate the load, the size of the shoulder should be so big from mechanical
According
engineering.
To the weight that you're lifting.
Yes.
And the distance apart.
Yes. So, but our human body is, such a wonderful apparatus, and it has such a wonderful potential that the muscles can contract and even give the stability, and you can lift the weight which is much heavier. And this design is so fine that like you are throwing the object, the strength or the energy given to the object when you throw, it is propelled in such a way that well precision calculating the weight mass of the object which you are throwing, then the gravitational force which is again interfering with the propulsion, and that is well calculated by our brain, and that much propulsion is offered, so you can just aim at the object, where you are throwing the thing.
We have pitchers now in the major leagues in America who can throw a ball at 105 miles per hour.
Yes, that is what.
Incredible.
So the whole thing is, so well coordinated, and not only the pace, even the precision where you want to hit.
Exactly.
That precision. And these muscles, imagine, the whole coordination is done by our central system through nerves. So all these muscles, especially voluntary muscles, they are voluntarily achieving the object, and the actions are so well precisioned that you get the results. Whereas there are what we call autonomous, where involuntary actions are going on, say for heart, right from birth. Why birth? From even fetal age, in mother's womb, the heart starts functioning, and those muscles function for the whole life, whether you are asleep or whether you are in coma or what, the heart muscles are functioning. So they are involuntary muscles, where you don't voluntarily need to have will or command to put them in action, and they are continuously there. Then there are muscles in our vessel walls also, like our arteries. They also have muscles, muscular action. They contract, relax. Even our esophagus. Esophagus is not voluntary. It is involuntarily working. So even if you eat something, even with against gravity, it definitely the food has to descend to stomach or ascend if you are the other way, like that. So it's a fine network of longitudinal and circular muscle fibers contracting and relaxing in such a way that the objects are negotiated to the proper destination by our body. And this happens in the whole intestinal tract. The food goes to the stomach. Once it goes to the stomach, both the ends, the pyloric end and the esophageal end, they get shut. The food is churned, and once the churning is over, so intelligently it is allowed to pass further. There is no timer or nothing. It is a real-time decision making. So you just drink water, which doesn't have much food stuff in it. The emptying is within minutes. Body just waits till it is coming to the body temperature, and then it is allowed to pass further. Whereas if you eat a normal meal, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, it has to churn in stomach. But by chance you happen to eat something which is too fried and with fat, so it takes much time to digest. So maybe sometimes your stomach needs to churn it for even beyond 3 hours, 3.5 hours, 4 hours. Such an intelligent apparatus it is. So by reading the need of for the content to digest, body has that churning mechanism, and then the pyloric end is opening, and the contents start advancing further, and then the small intestinal tract is around 10 meters, and that much food is allowed to transport by again the circular and longitudinal muscle fibers contracting and relaxing, what we call peristaltic movements in our intestinal tract, and the food stuff is going to large intestine, colon. In that also, the fecal formation, every bit of useful elements that is synthesized, absorbed again, and in the form of feces, the excreta is ready to be evacuated in the rectum. It's such a wonderful apparatus. Throughout life, these actions go on, and that to imagine. Again, these muscles are there. Along with that, there are some diverticulae which are formed. Those diverticulae also are taken care. There is a network of friendly organisms in our intestinal tract, and everything is sensed by our body. And like if there is some vitamin deficiency, the body arranges that you start craving the things or relishing the things which contain this type of element in it. So the muscles in general, they are in close coordination with our system, central system. And when you walk, when you balance, like when you are turning, not only the movement, it is the even the control also is granted by these muscles. So it's a wonderful apparatus. Bones provide you just structure. It's a frame. Bones give you the frame for the body. Yes. But the movements are undertaken by our muscular system. And this muscular system has wonderful, it stores energy. 85% of the heat generation is done by the muscles in our body. So it has multiple functions, and along with even the what we call movements, it is again, movement is for defense. So definitely every defense movement, the protection, the life preservation is definitely secured by our muscular movements, and that too under the central system coordinating it.
I always like to tell the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who became, I think, 7 times world champion in bodybuilding. Now, he was a 90-pound weakling, and he was determined that he would become one of the greatest bodybuilders of the world. And he would focus on every muscle and work that muscle till he got it where he wanted it. Now, he was using his brain, but also I think something higher had to come in there.
See, it's a very funny thing. This muscular action so intelligent that I remember a case where a child swallowed one side sharp. It was a hook in the window, and one side was blunt and one side was sharp. That sort of a hook was swallowed by a girl, and no one could believe that girl did not have pain. It was a child, hardly 2.5 years. And the elder sibling, 4.5, started shouting that she has swallowed it. And no discomfort was there. Then the parents took her to the medical college and they x-rayed, and the hook was there in the abdomen. And then even surgeons, team was very intelligent. They said if we approach it now, it will advance further. Because muscles, even under anesthesia, if some foreign body is there and you approach to remove it, if you touch the muscle somewhere with a knife or anything, the muscles go in contraction. And then the foreign body advances further. So you have to go on chasing. And it is unending. It's not easy to pinpoint there and go, because you have to cross through a lot of bundles of muscle fibers. Until you approach, muscles go on getting contracted, even under anesthesia. And this girl was kept under observation in medical college. And can you imagine, next day morning, the hook came in the stool. The blunt end was advancing and the sharp end was like a tail. And imagine the intestinal coil. And body is such an intelligent apparatus that the whole thing was negotiated through small intestines, large intestines, and in the stool the child passed.
By the muscles.
So our body muscles have innate intellectual actual, guidance from the central system. It is a autonomous system.
What about when the muscles begin to atrophy?
Yes, actually, it is what we call disuse atrophy.
This
Disuse means if the muscle is not used, then it loses its strength and potential, and then it goes in atrophy. This is a known phenomenon that muscles, if they are in action, they are maintained. That much tone is maintained. But if they are not used, they undergo atrophy. Now, sometimes if it is voluntary disuse, or sometimes it is involuntary disuse. Like, for example, one side is paralyzed. We have seen in hemiplegic cases where one side is paralyzed. Then the muscles undergo atrophy. We have seen in post-polio paralysis. The child, if the group of, in post-polio paralysis, only certain group of muscles get paralyzed, not the whole side. So that group which is paralyzed can't be used, and therefore it undergoes atrophy. So this is what we call disuse atrophy, not used. So this atrophy is known.
Is there any possibility of stimulation of those muscles?
Exactly, that is what we can do. Actually, if that part is brought under use, by even bypassing it, communicating it, or even with the splint, and definitely that can be maintained. That can be maintained.
Wonderful.
But these atrophies are because of the disuse.
Okay.
Disuse.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Wonderful talk. Thank you. Namaste. Join us again next week on the subject of the composition of the body with Dr. Pachegaonkar. Namaste, sir.